Hi, I am Ashish Kumar Dash, pursuing CSE at IIT Bhilai, India. For the past few months, I have been an LFX mentee with the OPM mainframe project, working on the Zowe client Java SDK, mentored by Frank Giordano. My project was bringing ZOSMF workflow APIs to the Java SDK, and this is what came out of it. Quick context on where I started. In April, my mainframe experience was zero. I had never touched ZOS, never seen a JCL job, didn't even know what ZOSMF was. By August, I had opened 23 pull requests against the SDK, 20 of them merged. That gap is really what this talk is about. So what is Zowe? Zowe is the open source framework that gives modern tooling to ZOS, and the Zowe Java Client SDK is the Java library that sits between your application and the mainframe. ZOSMF exposes a large set of REST APIs, datasets, jobs, USS files, the console, TSO. You could call those over raw HTTP yourself, but then you own the URL construction, the auth headers, the JSON parsing, and every edge case in the response format. The SDK does that for you and hands back typed Java objects. You write DSN list or job get, not a string concatenation and a hope. Here's the gap I was brought in to close. ZOSMF has a concept called workflows, a defined sequence of steps that automates a multi-step task on ZOS, provisioning something, configuring a subsystem, running a deployment. Instead of a runbook a human follows, it's a machine-readable definition the system can execute and track. Zowe's Node.js and Python SDKs already supported workflows. The Java SDK had nothing. So if you were a Java shop, that entire capability was simply out of reach through the SDK. My mentorship was the workflow package, designing it, building it, and making it look like it had always been there. But before I get to what I built, I want to tell you how I got in. I found this project on the LFX mentorship listing, and instead of writing my application first, I cloned the repository and started reading it, on the theory that if I couldn't understand the codebase, I had no business applying to work on it. 2 days in, I found a bug. The ZOS log API built its query string by always appending the time parameter first, but the optional parameters could still be appended with a question mark depending on a counter. Combine the wrong filters and you got this. 2 question marks in one URL, invalid request every time. I fixed the delimiter handling, added a regression test, and opened a pull request. Frank replied the same day, merged it the next, and cut a release. That was before I was selected for anything. So the actual work. 5 APIs make up the core of it. Create workflow was first, the full request and response model plus the method. Frank merged it earlier than he had planned, specifically so the rest of the cohort could use it to set up the test data on a live system for their APIs. Retrieve workflow definition reads a workflow definition file of ZOS and returns the steps and variables as typed objects. Get workflow properties return the live state of a running workflow instance. List workflows added 6 optional query filters with enums for the fixed value parameters. And create local is my favorite one. The problem: ZOSMF can only create a workflow from a file that already lives on the mainframe, but the definition file is on your laptop. So create local uploads the local files to a temporary USS path, creates the workflow against the uploaded paths, and then cleans up the temporary files, unless you ask it to keep them. One method call instead of a 3-step manual dance. Along those, roughly half my merge pull requests were things nobody assigned me, but I found on my own. Bugs I found while reading. A constructor validating the wrong HTTP request type, a TSO reply parser throwing false positive errors whenever the string message data appeared in ordinary message text, and a package whose name was misspelled. Test for areas that had none, cleanup work, and a small satisfying one at the end. ZOS status was the last file in the whole main source tree still passing JSON with the old library instead of Jackson. Removing that closed the loop I had opened myself months earlier. The hardest technical problem was in get workflow properties. When you ask ZOSMF for a workflow step, you don't get a shape of JSON back. You get 3: a template step, a rest step, and a calling step, each carry different fields. And the response contains no discriminator, no type, template field telling you which one you are looking at. You have to infer it from which fields are present. Naively, that's a handwritten parser with a pile full of null checks. Instead, I use Jackson's deduction-based polymorphic typing. declare a base type, register the 3 subtypes, and Jackson resolves each object by matching the fields that are actually there. The result is that the caller just gets the right typed object, and none of that ambiguity leaks into the public API, which is exactly what an SDK is for. Now the part I'd actually keep if I had to throw the code away. 4 things I did not know in April were: a correct fix to the wrong problem is still the wrong fix. I once fixed a malformed URL where 2 mutually exclusive parameters got combined. Frank pointed out that the real problem wasn't the formatting, it's that those parameters should not be combinable at all. When he read the input class more carefully than I had, found the validation already existed, and closed my PR. He was right. I had fixed the appearance of a URL that could never legally be constructed. 2. Consistency with the code base beats consistency with your own taste. I like name constants for query parameter keys. This project hardcodes them. I get told that 3 times in one review. I still prefer constants, and I now genuinely believe a code base where every file follows one convention is worth more than one where every file follows its author's best convention. 3. Name things after the API you are wrapping. My class was called Workflow Retrieve. It got renamed to Workflow Get to match the existing job get pattern. An SDK is a translation layer. If the names don't line up on both sides, your users pay for it. Closed is not rejected. 3 of my 23 PRs were closed unmerged. Every single one changed something. A letter design, my understanding of a contract, or a teammate's PR that landed instead. I want to spend a moment on the part I didn't expect. Frank reviewed nearly everything I wrote, usually within a day, often within an hour. And what made him a good mentor wasn't encouragement, it was specificity. His comments are valuable, even a 4-line snippet showing exactly the signature he wanted. You never have to know what needs work means. But it went past the code base. In July, we had a long call that was supposed to be about the workflow APIs and the mentorship work, but it stopped being about them fairly quickly. We talked about where we are each from, what work actually looks like day to day on opposite sides of the world, career expectation in different cultures, and a good amount of ordinary life. He asked about mine with real curiosity, and I answered mine the same way. That's what made him a grounded mentor rather than just a sharp reviewer. It's easy to take blunt feedback once you know there's a person behind it who's interested in you beyond your commit history. And the same was true of the cohort. 5 of us across 4 time zones, wildly different backgrounds, all reading the same review comments in parallel, and the API surface came out consistent anyway. So, 23 pull requests, 20 merged, 5 workflow APIs, and a package that didn't exist in the Java SDK before this summer. 8 ships in version 7.0. I applied to this program to learn a Java SDK. I came out of it having also learned how to work with people I would never otherwise have met. That part grew me more than the code did. Thank you to Frank Giordano, to Zowe, and to the Open Mainframe project and LFX mentorship for a program so valuable to me that I'll carry on in my professional life. Thank you.